Last night, May 4th, there was a double overdose, one in Rural King on 23 and one at Taco Bell, also on 23 in Circleville. Later in the night, a drug overdose at Speedway on Lancaster Pike. According to Aaron Kearns of Circleville Fire Department, we had 5 overdoses and the ER had 11. That is the most amount of overdoses in any one shift to my knowledge. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Rob Jarvis. I'm a Democratic candidate for Congress here in the Ohio 15th. And today we're here to learn and listen and to experience together what this opioid crisis truly is to the people of Ohio. I have with me a couple guest speakers. The first is a personal friend of mine, former coworker, Kay Ansel, who works in chemical dependency as a counselor in one of our hardest hit regions of Ohio. She would like to tell a little bit about her story. Kay?
Hi, my name is Kay. I am a chemical dependency counselor. The reason that I got into this field was I've had personal losses to this disease. My youngest daughter's father died in 2008 with a needle in his arm. My son, who's 16, just last year lost 2 people to this disease. And just last night, my niece lost a good friend to this disease. So this is not only my job, it's really a passion for me. I don't know that anybody now has not been affected by this disease in some way, somehow. Knows somebody or has personally gone through it themselves. I feel like I see both sides of the story because I've been on the side of mourning and asking the questions why. And then I see the people that are trying to get help and want help. And it's hard for them. It really is, because society has put such a bad stigma on these people that it really pulls at my heartstrings, because they come into my office wanting help, not knowing where to get it. They want to work. They want to raise their children. And society is really holding them back. I don't know how else to say it, but nobody grew up saying, I want to be a drug addict. I want to lose my kids. I want to die. Nobody has ever said that. That is not what they wanted to grow up to be. Some of them was by accident. They got injured and they were prescribed what they thought was going to help them, and they ended up being addicted. And now society has called them drug addicts and are not helping them, even though they were doing the right thing to begin with. Some have had the misfortune of living the life at a young age, not knowing any different. That doesn't mean that they don't want help and they shouldn't be part of this society. I know that they can, and I've seen it, become huge members of the society and helped in the communities. And it pains me. It really hurts when I have someone in my office that says, I can't get a job. My own doctors who are prescribing Vivitrol or Suboxone, they look at them and they're like, oh, you're a drug addict. They don't see them as somebody that wants help. It's just, they're giving them the drugs and going on their way. To me, I understand Suboxone is helping, but a lot of people are taking it as the new pill mills, giving out the Suboxone and saying, okay, this is going to make you better, but they don't sit and listen to these stories to try to help them. There's pain behind all of this. There's a lot of pain. And I just hope people look at other people differently. That's my hope and dream. That I don't know. It hurts, and it hurts me a lot. I don't know what else to say, Rob.
Thank you, Kay. We have a mother of 3 from Chillicothe, Shauna Patrick. Now, Kay and I can tell you a lot about what we've seen from a professional standpoint, and Shauna can tell you what it's like to experience this close in the home, in the family, and in daily life. Shauna?
Thank you. January 6th of 2017, I found my husband in our bathroom, collapsed from an apparent overdose. Needle and a spoon beside the toilet. I had Narcan. I used it, it didn't do anything. Found him at 7:05, at 7:45 they pronounced him dead. Worst day of my life so far, ever. It was 4 days after he turned 44. We have a 15-year-old daughter. At the time, she was still 14. I have 2 adult sons, but they were his sons, basically. He was stepped in and was their dad when he didn't have to be. And it's just been a horrible, horrible issue to deal with. I grew up on the opposite side of the fence. No drugs, no alcohol. No, I can count on one hand as many times as my dad had a bottle of beer in the refrigerator. So I grew up that only bad people did drugs and drank and ran and partied. Married a man that had drank a little bit, so I got used to that option. I'm not a drinker, I don't do drugs, but I learned that it's not everything is black and white. Then we divorced, and I met the husband that I lost, and he came from a life where that was the norm. Drinking and partying was the norm, and recreational drugs. We had a very whirlwind relationship, and he had been in trouble in his past, so he had a felony record, no driver's license, so difficult for him to work, difficult for him to find work because of, you have a felony, you're obviously a horrible person. You're not allowed to make a mistake. But we made it, and we made things work. During high school, he was a big-time football player, had hurt his knee, tore his ACL, but never had it treated. So he dealt with chronic pain on a daily basis, always. He was never easy on his body. So he dealt with a lot of pain. Through the years, I had convinced him to go to the doctor to see what we could do about that. And he was prescribed Percocet. Prescribed 7 years. And then all of a sudden, when they started cracking down on the doctor's prescribing, they just cut him off. Done. No more. And no options for anything else. They didn't wean him down. They didn't offer any treatment. Nothing. And he was hard-headed. He didn't admit he had a problem. I knew he had a problem, but it's up to them to admit they have a problem. Also, through the years, I had figured out, through watching his dreams, he had been molested as a child. And he had suppressed it. So he had almost all the characteristics to become a drug addict from his childhoods. Didn't want to be that. He wanted to be better. So because he needed them for his pain in his mind, he would buy them off the street. We dealt with that for a little while. It always caused a fight because it was illegal, and so it was very detrimental to our relationship in that sense. And when they got to the point that one pill was over $30 and he would need 2 or 3 a day, we couldn't do it. I was the only one working. We couldn't afford it, and it just became one fight after the other. And we had a few separations. During one of those separations, a friend kind of tricked him, and he snorted heroin and didn't realize it till after it was over with. And then they said, "Oh, Bob, it's cheaper, it's works longer, it's better, blah, blah, blah." It still wasn't his drug of choice in the end. The night he died, he was looking for a Percocet. But when you don't have what you need available, you do what you have to do to not be sick. But during that time that we were separated, another friend introduced him to the needle, and he was very against this. I mean, he would down his friends. He'd had many friends that had passed prior to this. We watched all of his friends go from recreational, a little bit of cocaine, and it just went down the line from cocaine to crack to pain pills to meth. Now it's all heroin. And he would just really get on them bad and talk down to them, and I would never do that. You're wrong. You're sick. Blah blah blah. And he kept asking this person, why will you not do it any other way? And all they would tell him was, I can't explain it. You just have to try it. So him, being the big tough guy, thought he could handle anything once. He tried it. And so far that I can tell, I guess what people have told me, the actual needle becomes an addiction also, not just the drug. And he had an episode, he was in the hospital. I actually had him pink slipped into treatment. He did well. He came home. That was in July of 2016. He did well up until about September. And then his dreams started coming back. And he was remembering more and more of what happened to him as a child. And I watched him from September to November struggle with that. I knew he was using pain pills occasionally here and there, but I was naive, didn't realize it was more than that because I never saw him high. What I look at as high is when you see someone nodding out, or visible that they're intoxicated. I never once saw him high, ever. So he was able to hide it real well. Then in November, he completely remembered everything, and from November to January, he maybe slept 5 nights. And it just deteriorated more and more. And then I found out what was going on. We had him set up to go to treatment. He had went several times, two times to get a Vivitrol shot. First time he backed out because it just scared him. All he could think about was he was still going to be in pain. The second time he went, he asked the doctor if he would still have pain. And she said, yes, it's not a pain blocker. So as soon as she said that, he was done. He didn't want anything to do with it. I happen to believe that would have been something that would have saved him because I know it blocks the opiate receptors. So his brain wouldn't have told him he was in pain. Yeah, it doesn't block pain. I get that. But I think we need to be more aware of what the addict emotionally is going through. And even though it's not what we consider pain, so I watched him fight like he could take anything. The strongest man I've ever known in my life, short of my dad. But for him to sit and cry that he was in pain, that he needed this, I'm like, you can't be. I've watched you be stronger than this. And you just don't understand. The brain is telling them they're in pain, plus they're sick. And so as soon as he thought he was still going to be in pain, he didn't want anything to do with it. And we got him, decided to get him into counseling. He had been to his 2 intake appointments to start going to mental health because for his past and deal with that. We knew that would help too. The morning I found him was the morning he was supposed to go to his first counseling appointment. He went out that night and he just couldn't resist, and he come home and confessed to what he'd done. I had assumed he'd used everything that he got. All he bought was a little $20 bag. He had used half of it. He confessed, he called his mom, he told his mom, we talked. He told her who had hurt him when he was younger. We encouraged him to forgive, and he did. And I've seen him have the most peaceful night of his life up until I found him. And I think he had used maybe a half hour before I found him. And it was not heroin. It was fentanyl, and he didn't know it. When the coroner's report came back, a therapeutic level for fentanyl in your blood, because they use it for cancer, is between 1 and 3. His level was 19.2. And the coroner told me there was not enough Narcan on the planet that could have revived him. It was instant, it was painless. He just went to sleep. My goal is to stop the stigma. If I had not, I started going to church about 6 months before he was hospitalized the first time. And I go to Zion Baptist Church, and they run a treatment program. It's not a treatment program, it's a residential program for those that have already been through treatment. It's called Another Chance Ministries. And if you could see the men and women, it's mostly for men right now. We're hoping to open a women's program. But they come and they don't necessarily accept God at first, but they see that we all love them. They're welcome no matter what state they're in, because they're human beings and they made a mistake, and we can't keep saying, just put it down, just stop. They can't. It damages the brain. I've seen medical pictures of scans, and it takes over a year before the brain actually starts healing again, to where they're not craving for the drug. And then even at that point, they still will have instances that will want them to use. So I'm at peace knowing he's in a better place and he's not struggling anymore. But the stigma has to stop, because the stigma is what kept him sick. And doctors have to start realizing they need treatment. It's not because they wanted to do it. It's not because I deal with people on Facebook, well, they knew before they stuck that needle in their arm. By the time they got to the point of sticking a needle in their arm, they had no other choice because they were so sick. I had someone give this analogy to me. It was, if you're in a pool and you're drowning and you're this far from the top of the water, what are you going to do to get to the top, to get your next breath of air? You would do anything. You would pull people down beside of you. You would push them under. You would do anything to get to that breath, to get that breath to stay alive. That's how their body and mind feels when they need that drug. It's not that they want it, they need it. And then by the time they're in a point that, they don't have jobs, you can't get a job, you can't work. If you mark down that you're a recovering addict, we don't want this in our... It's just really a sad situation, and we need to open up, show the love of God, and that everyone's human, and we all make mistakes. And we can recover, and they do recover. We just have to give them the time to recover and the support. Thank you.
Support and not scorn. That is the key. I believe that we need to increase any and all federal funding that can be given to drug courts to provide wraparound evidence-based treatment, services that combine social work, mental health, the judiciary, and general practitioners, so that we can give people a pathway to wellness. Today we've heard many voices of a collective struggle, a mutual wound, and a shared loss. A future has been stolen from all of us, and there needs to be a change. I believe that the time for that change is now. So, I am calling upon our current Congressman, Steve Stivers. No, I'm giving you an opportunity, Congressman, an opportunity to demonstrate your commitment to ending this crisis, an opportunity to demonstrate your compassion for the people of Ohio and in this nation who have suffered from this long enough. Return any and all campaign contributions that you have received from manufacturers or distributors who have perpetrated this crime upon the people of Ohio, and pledge to never accept another penny from these industries ever again. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here.